The Earnestly Speaking podcast is a show that is founded on free-flowing conversation and may at times venture into mature subjects. Listener discretion is advised.
Yeah, Earnestly Speaking podcast. Let's get it. I'm a giant in New York, in Miami carry heat. So much more in store, my product can flood the street. Opinion Nation Godfather, CEO. Puff in the late 90s, gon' see me blow. Oh. Got my hustle on, no imitation of fad. Army of untouchables, Opinion Nation staff. Never an off season, homie, check the numbers. Heart throb in my own right, supplying southern comfort. Earnestly speaking, my ego is well fed. Earnestly speaking, you're too feeble and no threat. See, I'm like a hurricane, you're a mild breeze. Earnestly speaking, leaving Eli a dynasty. Shake!
Earnestly Speaking podcast coming to you January 7th, 2025. It is I believe the second podcast of the new year. I'm back with a solo one here. Typically Tuesdays, we normally around this time of year do the student report, but Kyle, our guy Kyle, is going to be is actually busy today covering some stuff, doing his journalism stuff on the side, not on the side, but his main thing too also. So he'll be with us on Thursday. We're going to move back to Thursday and that's a big show because, as you guys know, we are at the end of the NFL regular season, so that means we do letter grades. So we're going to move that to Thursday this week. We got a lot to get to this week. Very football heavy this week, 22. With this episode today, number 1. Each generate tomorrow. We're gonna do our picks for wildcard weekend, and then of course, the game report on Thursday. That is scheduled right now. So because of that, we decided to move what I had planned doing this episode later in the week. I figured, well, if we do Kyle's show later in the week, we'll just move this episode 2 days earlier. So now we got this going. So again, we're gonna do our Earnest Speaking NFL Awards in a little bit. I gotta say though, this new year, I mean, I'm glad. Number one, I'm happy to be alive in this new year. I'm grateful for a lot of things. Grateful for this podcast. First, I mean, obviously, grateful for my friends and family, my wife, my kids. Just being able to be able to wake up every morning and be able to tell a tale every morning is truly, truly a blessing for me. That being said, health-wise, I need to get my shit back in order. The holidays were not too kind for me, and it's all my fault because I ate like shit. Look, I understood the assignment. In my case, with Christmas and whatnot, and to be honest, it goes like Thanksgiving. Honestly, we got a lot of birthdays and anniversaries and stuff. We all celebrate my family, so I indulge. I indulge a lot in not taking care of myself and stuff, and eating late and eating too much sugar and all that stuff. So I gained a few pounds back actually during the holidays, but I am refocused now. I am energized. I am refocused now to getting myself back in the best shape possible. Look, I ain't getting any younger, man. I ain't getting any younger. I'm turning 45 in May, and I can feel it sometimes. And my kids are getting older, and they're hyper, and they like to be active, and so it's something I have to really get to the meat and bones of. And my wife and I both are doing it, to be honest with you. So it's at least it's a tag team effort here on this side of the world. But that's my focus personally, is to get myself back in the best health possible. I know I talk about that a lot on the podcast about my health, and it is apropos. Sometimes there are days, there are months I do very well, and you see the results here on the screen, especially. And there are months and days I don't do very well, and I'm transparent about that. At least and to be honest with you, at least I'm honest about it. At least I'm very transparent, honest about that fact. So, but I am holding myself more accountable this year than ever as I hit my mid-40s this year. Got a lot of things I want to do this year, especially a lot of personal goals. I'll get to that later on future episodes, of course. But anyway, you guys are here to hear the my takes on the NFL at the end of the regular season. Before we do that, we just passed a Black Monday. Now, Black Monday, of course, is the day after the end of the regular season. Typically, Black Monday is focused on coaches getting fired and whatnot. We had a few firings. Now remember, it was a light Black Monday, but you also got to remember, too, also, there were a couple of jobs already during the season that were relieved during the season, most notably the Chicago Bears job, Mark Eberflus losing his job. Who's the other one? I think lost a job early in the year. I can't remember exactly on top of my head. Doesn't matter. But, we had Jerry Mayo in New England, get his walking papers on Sunday, actually, literally the day after beating the Buffalo Bills on week 18. Again, I have a lot of opinions on that one. We'll break that down more with Kyle on Thursday as we go through our letter grades for each team. But to me, those optics do not look good. I'm just calling like I see it. They don't look good. Okay, so Robert Kraft, you probably had a reason why you want to do what you do, and I get it. I don't have to like the optics though. It's bad optics, really, really bad optics. And then obviously this one didn't come as a surprise at all. Doug Peterson getting canned by the Jaguars after a 4-13 season. We knew that was coming months ago. We knew that months ago. And for me, I think the biggest shock is the fact that GM Trent Baalke kept his job. I don't know why. He should have been gone too, in my opinion. But that's a Shad Khan's decision and whatever. But that, to me, that was a shock in itself that Trent Baalke, GM, did retain his job as general manager. Now, on the personal side, the New York Giants, and I covered this actually on a small video on my YouTube page and on TikTok, which, by the way, I'm going to start doing those, a lot more of those often now going forward, more personal videos of that kind on those platforms. The Giants do retain Brian Daboll as head coach and Joe Shane as general manager for the team, which I'm probably, based on the reaction, I mean, you've heard the last 24 hours, I am obviously the minority in that because I actually agree with that. Okay, I told you guys months ago that the reason Daniel Jones and the Saquon Barkley thing was all fucked up in the first place was because of the fact that John Mara, the co-owner of the New York Giants, is the one who made the decision to extend Daniel Jones. Now, I don't know if Joe Shane and Brian Daboll actually agree with him on that decision 2 years ago. But whether or not they agree or disagree with the decision, the owner is the owner, and if John Mara wants what he wants, he's going to get what he wants because he's the damn owner of the team. So that decision ultimately affected what the Saquon stuff happened last year, was not what you got now. Now, I understand people's, a lot of Giant fans like myself, very in their feelings about the situation and that they should have lost their job. And yes, there is an argument for that. No one's saying you're wrong. But at the same time, I'm of the opinion that they should be allowed to at least pick the groceries going forward. For as bad as the Saquon Barkley thing was bungled last year, and first it certainly was worse the fact that it was on display on NFL Hard Knocks, HBO Hard Knocks. Obviously, seeing that whole thing play out on the spring edition of the Hard Knocks series, which I really enjoyed. Then he does what he does in Philadelphia on top of that. So it looks bad, optically speaking, but we also have to use logic here. These guys, for the Saquon bungle they did there, they did a great job of drafting, in my opinion, the best receiver right now in that draft, in Malik Neighbors, who had a phenomenal, despite all the quarterback, BS this year in New York, had a 1,000-yard season, broke team records this year. You got to give him credit for that. So they got that right. Bring in Brian Burns in the trade for Carolina. That was a great move too also. So they made some decent moves around that. Obviously, the Saquon Barkley thing stands out most because Saquon Barkley doing what he did this year, plus what happened on Hard Knocks, it looks bad. We get that. But let's just say they had their jobs. And for the record, I agree with it. But let's be clear here. They are under immense pressure moving forward. Now, that said, the New York Giants are picking number 3 in the draft. They need a quarterback. What are the odds of Cam Ward out of Miami, Shador Sanders out of Colorado? What are the odds of them falling down the cracks? Because I haven't seen any recent mocks as of late, but the consensus is that those guys are likely going to go 1 and 2 in whatever order. Okay, and especially the fact that the teams in front of the New York Giants in the draft order right now, currently, the Tennessee Titans at 1, the Cleveland Browns at 2, both need quarterbacks. Now, the Browns situation is a little weird because they do have a quarterback in Deshaun Watson that they're paying guarantee money for, but he's been absolute shit in his 3 years there in Cleveland. So that situation you keep an eye on. And I've had people give me opinions that they think that the Browns are not going to go quarterback this year, that they'll go lightly Travis Hunter instead, which then opens the door for the Giants to take whatever of the two guys falls on the cracks. what I do know, and I'm a fan of this as well too, as well as everybody else, is that these two guys are not worth trading up for either. So we got to see how this plays out going forward. It's gonna be an interesting offseason for the New York Giants and how they operate with this situation and how it plays out. So that's just that. Other than that, everything else has been hold. There's been no other coaching decisions yet on other coaches. Mike McCarthy is technically a free agent, I guess. He has till next week to I think the Dallas Cowboys, if they want to keep him going forward, they have a week till next week, I think, to retain him, or else he'll take a meeting with the he's supposed to take a meeting with the Bears next week or something. I can't remember what team was announced with that one, but a couple teams that are very certain Mike McCarthy. I do think he'll be back in Dallas, to be honest with you, because I don't see any reason why they would get rid of him at this point, especially if Jerry Jones is gonna. I mean, I don't find the Dallas Cowboys job attractive, and that's because of Jerry Jones. Jerry Jones has made that job unattractive. Okay, he wants to be the guy that he wants to do everything and then some. And again, it's his team, but coaches don't have to go there either. So keep an eye on that situation. Obviously, the Jets situation too as well. With there's rumors that Rex Ryan's is going to be taking a meeting this week with the Jets. We'll see if that plays out. I don't know, but we'll cover all that later in the week with Kyle. And all that, but it was a relatively soft and quiet Black Monday, other than Jerry Mayo getting fired on Sunday, and then yesterday Doug Peterson, no surprise, getting fired yesterday, and of course some as you said, retainments of Brian Daboll as coach in New York, along with Joe Shane as general manager. All right. That being said, so you guys know on this podcast every year I do an NFL season preview with myself, our good friend Zach Degenerate, our other good friend Chris Chrismanic, on the podcast every year, and we go through each team. We go through the over-unders, Vegas predictions, and we decide if each team will go over or under the win total projection. Now, obviously, I can't have both of those guys on the show today because they are doing their own thing. So every year I review that. Sometimes I in the middle of the year I see where I'm at, and then in the year I review it. So we're going to review where I stood this year on each team, how I did on the projections coming to the year, where the result was, and if I got it right or got it wrong. So like we did during the preview, I'm going to go in order like last time. I'm going to go in order of division by division. So first off, NFC East, Philadelphia Eagles, over number was 10.5 wins. I went over. They finished the year 14-3. I won that one there as well. A great year by the Eagles, of course. Dallas Cowboys, 10.5 wins was also their over-unders number. I went over, and I got that wrong. They went, I believe, 7-10 this year. So I got that one wrong. Washington Commanders, over number was 6.5 wins. I went under that one. I got that one wrong too. They went over. They went 12-5. Great year by Jane Daniels, who's going to be my rookie of the year, which we'll get that in a second. The New York Giants, their over number was 6.5 wins. I went under. I got that one right. They went 3-14. What a disaster by the Giants this year, huh? All right, NFC South. Atlanta Falcons. The over number was 9.5 wins. I went over. I got that barely wrong. They went. Let's see. I think did they go 8-9 this year? I think went 8-9 this year. Let me make sure of that. In any case, I went under. On that one. I went over and I got it wrong. And they did not get there at all. Hold on, I'm bringing it right now. This can agree with me real quick. Ooh, I hate these things. I really hate these things. These All right, yeah. Was I right on the 8-9 thing? I was right on 8-9. Yeah, they were 8-9. So I was right. Same Buccaneers, over number. The number was 7.5 wins. I went over. They got that. They went 10-7 this year. John well done by Baker Mayfield, who in my opinion was actually a low key MVP candidate also too. New Orleans Saints, 7.5 wins was a number. I went under. I got that right. They went 5-12. Disastrous year by the Saints. By the way, the other coach got fired early in the year was Dennis Allen for the Saints. Got fired early in the year, so the Saints job is open as well too. Carolina Panthers, over number was 5.5 wins. I went under. They got that. I got that right. Went 5-12. Oh, I got to tell you, 5-12 for the Panthers this year, considering how everything played out. A strong finish. Bryce Young, great job. We're obviously going to review this on the show on Thursday with Kyle in the week. NFC North, the Lions number was 10.5 wins. They crushed this one over. I got the over. They went 15-2 this year. What a great year by Dan Campbell and company. The Green Bay Packers number was 9.5 wins. I went over. They got the over as well too. They went 11-6. Not a very strong finish to the year this year for them though. I'm a little worried about them coming to the playoffs. We'll get that later. The Bears, Their number 8.5 wins. I went over this one. I thought they'd make the playoffs this year, and I got that one dead wrong. They were 5-12. Now, granted, they were actually 4-2 and were a Hail Mary from being 5-2 going into week 8 or 9. And after that, they proceed to lose 10 games in a row after that Commanders loss on a Hail Mary in Washington. They finally won the first games in 10 weeks after on week 18 against Green Bay. So, but I got that one wrong as well too. One of the Bears. This one I got dead wrong. The Vikings, they were 6.5 wins over under. I went under this one. I thought it'd be a disaster, and they were 14-3. Sam Darnold, what a renaissance this year. I was dead wrong on this one on the Vikings. Kudos to those Vikings for the job well done. All right, NFC West. The Niners, they were 11.5 wins. I went over in this one, and I was dead wrong. I went under. Lots of injuries this year. Lots of injuries for the Niners. So I fail on that one. They went 6-11. The Rams, they were 8.5 wins over under. I went under. They went over. They got over at 10-7. Again, strange team too, because there's a team that when they're healthy, they're good. But you don't know if what's his face, Matt Stafford and company, and Puka Nacua and Cooper Kupp, are they gonna be healthy? We don't know. But they were healthy for most of the year. They actually were hurt early in the year, and they started year 1-4, and they caught fire after that. So job well done by the Rams and Sean McVay, who is again one of the top 3 or 4 coaches in the league, in my opinion. All right. Seattle Seahawks, 7.5 wins the over number. I went over on the Seahawks, went 10-7 well too. Missed the playoffs though, but I did get the over in that one. The Cardinals, they were 7.5 wins as well too. I went under, and they went over. They went 8-9 actually. They were pretty good in spots this year. They did melt down late in the year though, but they were, better than I thought they'd be. All right. AFC, Kansas City Chiefs, the champs. They 11.5 wins over under. I went over. Of course, they got this one right. They crushed it 15-2 this year for the back-to-back champions Chiefs. The Chargers 8.5 wins the over under. I went over this one. A lot of people gave me crap for this one. I'm going over, and I was dead right. They went 11-6. What a year by Jim Harbaugh. First year. Again, keep saying Jim Harbaugh, culture changer. Jim Harbaugh, culture changer. Respect to Harbaugh and company. Even though the allegations in Michigan is pretty damning. All right. The Raiders, 6.5 wins was their number. I went under. I got that one right. They went 4-13. Disaster by the Raiders itself. Antonio Pierce right now still the coach currently. A lot of folks are saying he might lose his job. Hopefully he doesn't lose his job, but we'll see what happens there. All right. Finally, the Denver Broncos. I went under this one, 6.5 wins, and I was dead wrong. I was dead wrong on the Broncos. I went over. Actually, I'm sorry. I got it wrong right. I went over in the Broncos at 5.5 wins, and they got over, and they did well. They made the playoffs. Sean Payton. Not a fan of Sean Payton personally, but Sean Payton's a hell of a coach. 10-7. Bo Nix, great year. Definitely in the conversation for Rookie of the Year. So great job by him. All right, AFC South. Houston Texans. 9.5 wins was a number. I went over. I got that one right. However, I will say the Texans definitely felt unwhelming this year. Definitely unwilling team this year. I don't see them doing much in the playoffs. They should be a one and done team, but we'll see. We'll obviously get to the predictions tomorrow with Zach on the podcast. The Jaguars, 8.5 wins was the over number. I went over this year, and they went way under. 4-13 disaster. Of course, like I told you earlier in the show, Doug Peterson gone as head coach of the Jaguars, and that's just that. The Colts, their number this year was 8.5 wins. I went under. They got that was right, barely 8-9 year for the Colts. They were kind of frisky at times this year, but for the most part, another 20 year for the Colts and Anthony Richardson and whatnot. The Titans, over under number was 6.5 wins. I went under. I got that one right. They were 3-14. Of course, they'll be drafting first in the NFL draft this coming April. All right, AFC North. Baltimore Ravens, 10.5 wins was over the number. I got the over. They got there, 12-5. No surprise there, of course. To me, and this is my Super Bowl pick, obviously. The Bengals, 10.5 wins was the number. I went over. Nope, under. They went 9-8 this year. Missed the playoffs. Very slow start to the year. They caught the surge late in the year, but couldn't get it in time. Couldn't get there in time. The Cleveland Browns number was 8.5. I went over, and I was dead wrong on this one. They were under 3-14. Of course, we picking second in the draft this year, so that was wrong on that one. The Steelers number was 8.5 wins. I went under. They got over once again. Mike Tomlin find the ways. Although they end the year on a 4-game losing streak, not good. Not good for the Steelers here. They were 10-7 this year, went over, but not a good end to the year for the Steelers. All right, finally the AFC East. Full Bills. 10.5 wins. 10.5 wins was the over under. I went under this one, and they crushed it at over 13-4 for Josh Allen, the MVP candidate. Great year for the Bills. What a year for the Bills. The Dolphins, their number was 9.5 wins coming to the year. I went over. I got this wrong. They were 8-9. Disappointing year by the Dolphins. Obviously, the stuff with Tyreek Hill, eventually once out of Miami, we'll see how that plays out going forward. Not a good look though. The Jets. Oh boy, here we go. 9.5 wins the overall number. I went over. That was a bad look. 5-12 for the Jets this year. Under. I got that one wrong. Disaster once again for the New York Football Jets. And finally, the New England Patriots number was 4.5 wins. I went under. I got that right. They're 4-13. That's not surprised there at all for them. As for division winners, I had the Eagles, Lions, Falcons, Niners win divisions. I was right on the Eagles, right on the Lions, was wrong on the Falcons, wrong on the Niners. As for wild cards, I had Cowboys, Packers, and Bears. I was wrong. I was got the Packers right. Obviously, the only one I got right on the wild card there. In the AFC, I had Dolphins, Ravens, Texans, and Chiefs. As division winners, I got 3 of 4 right. Wrong on the Dolphins, obviously. The Bills won the AFC East. Ravens, Texans, and Chiefs did win the divisions, though. I had wild cards. I had the Bengals, Browns, and Jets. I got all 3 wrong wild card teams wrong. Unbelievable. So anyway, that is where I stood and how I resulted in this year's predictions for the NFL. And that is just that. All right. As for the awards, in terms of who I think, or MVP, Coach of the Year, it's not. So my biggest surprise this year in the NFL, this is easy. The Vikings, Minnesota Vikings, a team that I thought would be moribund, would be a 4 or 5 win team this year, rebuilding. No, that's for a quarterback. You come to the year with January McCarthy's quarterback, rookie quarterback. He's got to figure things out there, and then he gets hurt, and then Sam Darnold takes over, and you think, oh, Sam Darnold, okay, well, Sam Darnold's stunk for his entire career, average at best. He's not going to lift. And not only that, also at the time, remember too, also coming to the year, we looked at the NFC North as probably the best division in football. Certainly the best division in the NFC, which it did play out that way in some ways because of the Lions being good, Vikings being as good as they are this year, and then, of course, the Packers doing well as well, too. But we didn't think the Vikings would be part of that equation, and to do what they did this year, going 14-3 and on the verge of winning the number 1 seed, if they won the Week 18 Detroit, you got to give them credit for that one. So a job well done by the Vikings. Biggest surprise for me. Biggest disappointment for me is still the Bengals. Because you actually got a healthy Joe Burrow this year. The defense stunk this year. You had all the things that Joe Burrow did this year. You had Jamar Chase having a triple threat year this year. Triple crown years, whatever, numbers wise, and yet they still came to the playoffs, especially in the year the Cleveland took a step back. Pittsburgh tanked late in the year. Baltimore had his issues in the middle of the year, but it got all together. There was still room for the Bengals to make some noise. You get one more win. You have 6 losses by 1 score this year too, especially Bengals were supposed to be a Super Bowl contender. Forget the fact they make the playoffs. They're in the conversation of being a Super Bowl contender. And that was what's the funny thing about the Bengals for me. So they were still, even though they surged late in the year, they were still my biggest disappointment of 2024. Offense Rookie of the Year, easy, Jane Daniels. It got a little tight by about week 13, week 14 with Bo Nix playing very well. But Bo Nix had a couple of rough games late in the year. Jane Daniels picked up the pace. And to me, Jane Daniels is my offensive Rookie of the Year. Defensive Rookie of the Year, I got Jared Verse with the Rams as Defensive Rookie of the Year. Great year by him. Offensive Player of the Year, Saquon Barkley. 2,000 yards. He might have broken the record had he played week 18 against the Giants, rushing record. Eric Dickerson's rushing record. Had he played week 18. Although I do actually, in hindsight, agree with Nick Sirianni's decision to bench him, because it's not just benching him; it's the entire O line. That game had nothing to play for the Eagles. They were locked in 2 seed, and you want not just him healthy, but also the O line be healthy too. Also, so it's more about team than about records here. And I agree with Sirianni in bigger picture. All right, defensive player of the year, TJ Watt. Despite the Lions, sorry, not Lions. Despite the Steelers, falling back late in the year, I got to give a Saquon Bark. Damn, I am off today. TJ Watt, for a great job well done this year for the Steelers, anchoring that Steelers defense, especially early in the year when the offense was stunk, when they had Justin Fields in the lineup and they couldn't score nothing. TJ Watt was an anchor for that the Lions. Jesus, what's wrong with me? For the Steelers defense, rather. Job well done by him. Executive of the year, I have to give it to the guy in Minnesota, Kwesi Adofo-Mensah. Just the Sam Darnold signing alone gives him, it's a win for him. Just signing Sam Darnold on its own is a win in itself. So job well done by Kwesi Adofo-Mensah as executive of the year for me. Now, coach of the year. This was tough because for the last month or so, I've been saying Kevin O'Connell was a runaway coach of the year. Okay. Now, most of the year I had a combination of Mike Tomlin for a while, then the Steelers fizzled out late in the year, so that he was out of it. I remember I mentioned Sean Payton for a while, and then the Broncos fizzled out late in the year before making playoffs. Who else I mentioned? Dan Quinn for a while, and he's in the conversation. Obviously, you got a lot of great coaching on this year. The Rams, Sean McVay had a case also too with what he did this year, with the Rams injuries. Jim Harbaugh, phenomenal year. Chargers, a rebuilding year. So much for that. But the last month I was saying it's Kevin O'Connell bust. Kevin O'Connell bust. But at the last minute, I had to change it. And Kevin O'Connell, certainly if he wins it, I'm not mad about that. But I had to go Dan Campbell in Detroit, because when you consider this team, and look, we all knew they'd be good this year. But they lost 13, count it, 13 defensive players to injury this year. Okay, they're without right now currently going to the playoffs, but 13. Okay, all the injuries this team had, and they still found the way to get to the NFC mountaintop of the regular season. Okay, Dan Campbell. Okay, with all the injuries and the decision making, going on 4th down, which may not be popular for some, and I get that, but it worked. It's all fine and dandy when it works. Okay. To me, Dan Campbell deserves it. To me, Dan Campbell has been he's been true to who he is, and to me, this team has responded to him. Like there's no, when you talk about players playing for a coach in a big way, I don't think anyone else doing it better than Dan Campbell in football right now. There's no team that has adopted the personality of his coach, and in a great way, in the way Dan Campbell has turned that culture in Detroit. 50-2 with all those injuries. So, as great a job Kevin O'Connell has done this year, and he definitely, look, if actual voters actually deserve give him the votes and actually vote for him as coach of the year, I'm not mad about that, because to me it's neck and neck. But for what Dan Campbell did this year with all those injuries and still be able to beat Minnesota twice this year, and whatnot, I gotta get to him by an edge. So Dan Campbell for me is the coach of the year. And then finally, what may be probably a controversial, it has been controversial. I mean, when it comes talking about the talking points about this, is MVP. It's a 3-man race. It's Josh Allen, it's Saquon Barkley, it's Lamar Jackson. Now, if we're talking about numbers here, solely numbers, okay, there's a strong case for 2 guys. Lamar Jackson has numbers, definitely. And Saquon Barkley, who has had 2,000 yards rushing this year. Only the 5th or 6th player ever in NFL history to do that. Okay? And had he played Week 18, he probably breaks the record against that porous Giants, well, at this point, Giants defense, porous now. But But and you guys gonna get mad at me probably. Some of y'all get mad at me. Josh Allen is my MVP. I'm going to tell you why. And I think I've explained this before on the podcast for a few episodes back. Josh Allen is going to be MVP for the same reason Lamar Jackson won it last year. Josh Allen is doing more with less. Okay? He has less weapons right now than both Saquon Barkley has and what Lamar Jackson has. Okay? Lamar won for the same reason last year and even 2019. He had less weapons to work with. Okay? And his productivity and the win totals helped this case too on top of that. Josh Allen is 14-3 as a 2 seed in the AFC, and I would argue that Baltimore is still better than they are on paper. In fact, Baltimore did beat them in week 4. Okay? So that's the one argument for Josh Allen there, in my opinion. Okay? Now, had the Ravens won maybe even one more game, but I have to be 2. But let's say the Ravens go 13-4 as opposed to 12-5. I think that may push the Lamar thing closer because Lamar now has numbers to back it up. Okay? Lamar threw 4,000 yards, rushed for nearly 1,000 yards again. Okay? Had probably, in my opinion, the most productive quarterback year in history of football. Okay? And I'm not saying better passer than Peyton Manning or Tom Brady, but I'm saying for the amount of things he does for his team. He not only throws the ball well, he also runs the ball very well. Obviously, better than anybody else in the position we ever seen in position play. Ever. Okay? The fact that he's productive at that position gives him an advantage. But there's also no one. Josh Allen does not have the equivalent of Derrick Henry on his roster either. Derrick Henry was a massive help. And at one point, we were concerned Derrick Henry MVP at one point this year. Let's not forget that. So in some ways, when we were having a discussion like a month or two ago, with Derrick Henry was still a liable conversation about this, Derrick Henry was actually stealing votes from Lamar anyway. What Josh Allen did in Buffalo this year with less, losing Stephon Diggs, losing Gabe Davis, you forgot that too also. You know, I give it to Josh because of those things. Because he won more games, he's doing more with less. Okay? Now, I did say this weeks ago on the podcast that it can be argued that in terms of playing the actual position this year, no one probably did better than Lamar Jackson and maybe even Joe Burrow. Okay? But Josh Allen is doing more or less, and his team is down is a 2 seed in the AFC. And that alone gives him an advantage for me. So, because to me, the MVP at the end of the day is about circumstances, and really, honestly, wins and losses play a big part. Which is why Joe Burrow, as great a year as he had this year, no shot winning the MVP, no shot. So, there is my take on all the awards that I'm giving out and doling out to the players, individual players this year from the 2024 NFL regular season. All right, now I'm going to now attack something here that I typically do once, every year during the playoffs for certain sports. I do for the NBA once in a while during the playoffs. I've done it for I think for baseball one time, I think also, but definitely NFL. And I call it EJ's rootability rankings. Now, if you're gonna ask, what the hell is a rootability rankings? So if you're new to the podcast, my rootability rankings are all the teams in the playoffs currently. There's 14 teams in the playoffs, 7 in each conference. Which teams am I rooting for in order? I'm putting in ranking order of teams I'm rooting for. Okay, because each team has a reason or a narrative why I would root for them this postseason. And hold on 1 second. I'm making one change here because I made a mistake here on something here. All right, there we go. Each team I have a reason for, whether it be a player, a coach, a narrative, it may be. Now, it's easy this year because the Giants aren't in. So if the Giants are in here, they're easy number one on how you slice it because I'm a Giants fan. And if the Dolphins were in there, they're number one easy because the number 2 teams are Dolphins. None of those teams are in the playoffs this year. So it doesn't really matter. So I'm going to give you my rankings for the 14 teams from 1 being the team I'm rooting for the most to win the Super Bowl to 14 being the least who I want to win the Super Bowl. Now, you guys know me for as long as you have. You already know what number 14 is. Which team I'm rooting for the least to win the whole thing. The Eagles. You guys know that already. Now, having said that, If the Eagles were to actually win the Super Bowl, I would be happy for only 2 players in that team. Okay? You guys don't love Jalen Hurts. That's my guy. I'm a big Jalen Hurts guy. Okay? So Jalen Hurts be the one guy. And then, of course, Saquon Barkley. Because even though, he went to Philadelphia, my arch rival, it wasn't his fault. He wanted to stay in New York, you know? And, that guy has been nothing but class personified since leaving the team. But I can't root for the Eagles. I just can't. You guys know I hate the fucking Eagles. Not going to happen, okay? So Eagles are 14 on my rankings. Number 13, the team I root for, is Denver Broncos. Now, normally it'd be a little bit higher on this list, but I can't stand Sean Payton, man. I can't see Sean Payton win a title. Okay, look, job well done, Sean Payton. Cool job by Sean Payton. But I can't root for Sean Payton to win a title. Sorry, not happening. So 13 is the Broncos. Now, if the Broncos Eagles did play in the Super Bowl, which is likely not to happen, yes, I would root for Denver. Okay. All right, 12, the Rams. Now, they were higher in these rankings a couple years ago because Matt Stafford. I'm a big fan of Matt Stafford, and he was ringless at the time. Well, he has a ring now, so I don't have to root for him anymore. Because I'm not a Rams fan. I'm not. Never have been. So there's that. So the Rams are 12 on my list. Number 11, Tampa Buccaneers. Baker Mayfield. He's a very grimy guy. Love him. A lot of people can't stand him. I get it with Baker Mayfield, but that dude is just a grinder. And I've become a fan of him now. Like, I remember when he first came to the league, wasn't a big fan of him in Cleveland. Even in college, I didn't really care for him in college in Oklahoma. But I don't know, man. Something about a story that really, he's a real dude. I get people don't like him, and there's good reasons to not like him, but I don't know. He's grown on me. He really has grown on me through the years. All right, number 10, the Vikings on my list. They don't win a title before, and they got players I like. And I got friends that also like the Vikings too. Also, so if anything, my friends who like the Vikings are actually are probably the reason why I probably want them to win if they ever got to that point where they're top of the heap. But number 10, number 9, the Packers. Always like Green Bay. No problem with Green Bay. Jordan Love is pretty cool. Probably one of the best fan base, probably the most loyal and best fan bases in all of NFL. Really, definitely top three. So Green Bay is definitely in there. Number 8. Quick change here. I'm gonna go Texas number 8. I like Ryan, obviously. He's cool. C.J. Stroud, tough year for him this year. I also never liked the Texans ownership anyway. I still hold them responsible for a lot of the shit they did through the years. Although they did have to make Ryans, so all is well now, I guess, now for the time being. But 8, Texans. 7, the Chargers. Again, another team that won a Super Bowl before. I'm also a big Jim Harbaugh fan. You guys know I'm a massive Harbaugh fan. I've been a Harbaugh fan since he was in the NFL. Since he was in Chicago as quarterback before Indy. So, and I got friends of mine also who are Chargers fans as well, rooting for them as well to win it. So wouldn't be a bad thing for me. 6, the Steelers. Now this is interesting because they asked me to be a little bit higher on this list because their quarterback. I love Russell Wilson, and in fact, if they were to beat Baltimore, they may go up the charts on this list for me. Russell Wilson is my favorite player in the league still. Maybe second now to Lamar Jackson, but certainly one of my all-time favorite players of all time in the league. And I like Mike Tomlin. I root for the guy. I hate the narratives around him. People that don't like him. A lot of Steel fans want him gone because of the time of mediocrity. And look, I get the case for it. I get it, but you're not going to find not much coach better than him. Honestly, he's not. All right, 5, the Buffalo Bills. Buffalo Bills at 5. Well, I think let's go to this list. It should be a little higher than that. 5 Buffalo Bills. I love Bills Mafia. You guys find your notes already too. Also, probably my favorite quarterback of all time is Jim Kelly. Bills Mafia is phenomenal. I got a lot of friends that are Bills fans. I remember being back in the day in the 90s where I did, in 3 to 4 Super Bowls, I root for the Bills. I was the first one as the Giants. I did not root for them at all. So, and Josh Allen's great. You know, I love the fan base more than anything else. The fan base is actually phenomenal. That's why Buffalo is that high on my list at 5. Okay, I think I'm gonna screw some here real quick. I actually had a team missing here. Okay, so I'm gonna go back to 8. Okay, so I said Packers 9, right? 8 to Texans. All right, 8 to Texans. 7 is the Commanders. Now you're gonna say, oh, why the Commanders so high? You know, division rivals. But I've always had a little soft spot for the formerly Redskins, formerly football team. Love Jane Daniels. Zach Degenerate also, you know, the longest member of this podcast. He's a massive Washington guy. I wouldn't mind them winning because of him. Rob the Genius on this podcast also. Big fan of the Commanders. Wouldn't mind winning because of him, because they're two good guys and loyal fans. So that I wouldn't mind that, honestly. They're the one NFC East team that I don't really have harbor hatred for. I really don't. I don't like them, but I'm not like, oh my god, I hate the Commander. I hate the Eagles and I hate the Cowboys. You know, but Commanders, it's whatever. 6 Chargers, okay, to justice. 6, so 7 Commanders, 6 Chargers, 5 Steelers, 4 Bills. Bills are 4. Although that's been tough for me though, because honestly, Russell Wilson probably, I don't know, he has a ring, so that makes it a little easier. But I want Russell Wilson to do well to end his career. I want him to get in the Hall of Fame, and for him to get in the Hall of Fame, he will have to probably have another deep run to start to really help his case. But 4 Bills, again, that team has never won a title before, and I'd love to see that happen at some point. All right, 3 the Lions, another team that they're won it for. So certainly the Lions are the team I want to win the NFC without question. Okay, Dan Campbell and company, and that you want to talk about a team that's starved for titles, a city and starved for titles, a team also. The Lions are another one starved for any, not just titles, any success in general. This is simple. All right, number 2, the Chiefs. The Chiefs number 2. People say, "Oh, why so high? They won 3 titles with Mahomes." So, bro, I am a massive Pat Mahomes fan. I'm also a massive Andy Reid fan, and the more rings Andy Reid gets, the closer he gets to the GOAT conversation. The more rings Pat Mahomes gets, the closer the GOAT conversation he gets. He's right top 3 as is. Okay, and I like seeing success rewarded. Now I get all the annoyance of that Taylor Swift thing, and I get all that. I get all the the refs were for them, and there's some of that to be said. But you know what? It's no different than when the Chicago Bulls were winning titles in the 90s, and Michael Jordan got every fucking call. Okay, Michael Jordan got every goddamn call in the 90s. So cut the bullshit. This is nothing new. Okay, every star player in every sport gets calls. Get over it. Okay, get the fuck over it. Okay, it happens all the time. Okay, seriously, stop. All right, so that's why I choose number 2. And number 1, I've been saying it. The Ravens number 1. Lamar Jackson. That's all you said. Lamar, Derrick Henry too, but Lamar Jackson, to change the damn narrative about him. He can't win. You can't win titles this way. He can't win a Super Bowl playing the way he plays. Let's fucking go, man. Let's go. Lamar Jackson number 1, and the Ravens. That's why I want to win the title. To change that narrative, because I'm so sick and tired of all you wannabe sports analysts out there, or all these commentators that have an opinion, and I'm sorry, your opinion stinks. Oh, Lamar Jackson sucks. Oh, Lamar can't do it because at this level he can't throw the ball this way. Well, everything you ask this guy to do, he's done. He's changed as a passer. Now what? So all this left is a ring now. Get this dude a ring, man, and hopefully it changes the narrative. Hopefully. So that's my relatability rankings for this year, 2024 NFL playoffs. I'm all in on the Ravens, but obviously if that doesn't happen, then the Chiefs or the Lions or the 2 other teams that I will be heavily rooting for in this playoff run. All right, so no done football. A couple of things to get out of here. Last night was the official start of WWE Raw on Netflix. We covered it last year on the podcast when it became official that Raw was on Netflix. I think early last year. And yes, was the first episode. I did watch most of it. Now it's funny, wrestling. I love wrestling, obviously, but it's funny because around this time of year when I start getting back into it, because look, wrestling again. I keep telling you guys, I can't watch this shit every week. I just can't. It's too much. I don't have the bandwidth for it. I just don't. And between September and especially to September, put it this way, between SummerSlam, by the end of SummerSlam, and say Royal Rumble, it's kind of hard to get back into it. Yeah, football, college football, NBA's back, baseball playoffs, this year the election. So there's so many things distracting me. Plus, I'm a dad and a husband. So things are going to suffer. Things are going to suffer in terms of like attention. And wrestling does. I mean, I don't even watch AEW anymore, kind of loud. I barely know what's going on in AEW. WWE, I kind of know what's going on for the most part because I still follow it on YouTube. I watch the shorts, And I did go to Raw in August, first Raw in 25 years for me and my kids. But this is also the time of year I start getting back into wrestling now because now that football's winding down, we're getting close to WrestleMania season. Royal Rumble's around the corner, and you have, Raw on Netflix is a big deal. I wanted to see the Palm Circumstance. And for the record, every celebrity was there. Every celebrity was there. I saw Macaulay Culkin there. I saw Topanga from Boy Meets World there. Daniel Fishel still looks fine as hell. I saw, you name it, every celebrity was there. Travis Scott was just smoking a blunt. He's California, guys. He can do what he wants. A lot of things going on there on Raw. It was a decent show. There was less wrestling though, really. Honestly, there was more pomp and circumstance than wrestling. The Rock obviously came out. Is The Rock still a heel? I don't know. It seems like he's not a heel anymore. Maybe that's all a swerve. We'll see. We had big matches here. Roman against Sol Sikoa, and obviously CM Punk, the main event. CM Punk against Seth Rollins. That was a great match, actually, to be honest with you. For all the shit against CM Punk, the dude's he's put on his best matches since his comeback to wrestling in general in WWE. Way better than AEW, for the record. But the biggest takeaway from Raw last night for me was, and I spoke about wrestlers being there, celebrities being there. Hulk Hogan was also there last night. You guys know, for me, Hulk Hogan is torturing for me because as a diehard wrestling fan of nearly 40 years, I do consider myself a Hulk Hogan disciple. He's the reason I got into this shit in the first place. Now, granted, my favorite wrestler of all time is Randy Savage, but number 2 is Hulk Hogan. And Hulk Hogan public persona has taken a massive hit through the years. Of course, the last 10 years, actually. Most notably for racist comments he made on tape regarding comments he made his daughter and him saying that he didn't want his daughter to be with a black man, but he used the N-word, which I'll have to repeat here. You guys know what the word is. So the feeling of Hogan has been for a long time, has been negative. Added to the fact also too, things we find out later in the years, him politicking behind the scenes. And we hear old wrestlers, old coworkers of his come out and say that through the years. And it's multiple people saying it. And for record, we all believe it. We do believe it. Now, it doesn't take away from the legacy of Hulk Hogan. And I think in wrestling, it's easy for me to separate the two because Hulk Hogan, the wrestler, Hulk Hogan, the entertainer, or the sports entertainer, rather, is truly one of the greatest of all time. He is... both things can be correct here. Hulk Hogan is an absolute fucking prick, a racist, okay? But also Hulk Hogan is also the Mount Rushmore of WWE. The Mount Rushmore of wrestling for that, crying out loud. Okay? He's Mount Rushmore, period. Both be right here. So last night, he came out on Raw, and the reaction was, I say stunning. And I say stunning because in the last, I'll bring up here in a second. Okay. In the last year or so, he's been stomaching with Donald Trump. He's kind of embraced the whole MAGA movement. He was at the Republican National Convention. He did rallies with Trump. And he's kind of found, in this whole last 10 years of him being this like polarizing, almost hated character by people across the landscape, he has found some welcoming, opening arms from MAGA world. Okay, so and we also found out too, also yesterday, that the beer company that he founded, Real American Beer, the WWE now started a partnership with him. You saw that on the ring, which, by the way, I really hope they don't do this shit with the ring, have all the advertising on the ring. It's annoying. You had Fortnite in the middle, and you had like all, what was it, Prime and Real American Beer and all this shit on there. So overly corporate, in my opinion. I get capitalism, I get it, but come on now. So I guess the feeling was that, okay, maybe Hogan's image is rehab now as a result of this. But if you watched Raw last night, and when he got introduced last night on Raw, oh boy, here it is. I'm playing the clip for you right now. Here it is. It was not good. He looks stunned.
Well, let me tell you something, brother. Woo. You know something, maniacs? I've been in this business for over 40 years, and the greatest part of my life was being part of this great WWE, guys.
All right, so anyway, there it is. Sorry about that. All right, so that was the reaction coming out. Very disturbing to watch. Very, very uncomfortable for me, again, as a Hogan fan, who I'm good at separating the two. As a guy who really appreciates Hulk Hogan as a wrestler and what he's done for the business, and I've been someone who's defended him. I've always defended Hulk Hogan's legacy as sports entertainer for the business. Hulk Hogan, the human being, could go kick rocks. Okay, and for the record, I forgive him for everything he said. Doesn't mean I forget. Okay, so it wasn't comfortable seeing that. Now, the dialogue last night was weird, because a lot of people think or assuming that, it's in California and LA, it's a blue state, blue city, that people hate him because of his support for Trump. And look, there is some of that. I'm not gonna sit there and say, there's not that at all. There's definitely some of that out there. But I think it's lazy to say that because, I give another example. So last night, The Undertaker was also there. Okay? Undertaker, also a massive Trump supporter. In fact, Undertaker had Donald Trump on his podcast during campaign season. That didn't affect the crowd there and how they reacted to Hulk Hogan. So ain't this Trump. Hulk Hogan has a legacy, has a history of bad faith. The Trump thing might be part of it, but honestly, look, Triple H, Trump supporter, got cheered to hell last night. Okay? So to me, the Trump thing is less. It's less about that. To me, it's the racism. Because, and I was having some dialogue with people last night on social media. Someone was so disheartening. There was this guy on Facebook I was responding to. He made a comment about like, oh, great, we're gonna boo common sense. So he was assuming that they're booing him because of the Trump stuff. I go, no, they're booing him because of the fact that he's a racist. He's a known racist. He actually apologized for the comments he made. I don't know if you're aware of this. And this guy's a pastor, for the record. This guy on his profile, he's a pastor in Mississippi. And he's laughing at me about it. Like, dude, you're laughing about it because it's a joke. He literally said comments on record, said the N-word, and later acknowledged he said what he said and apologized for it. It's not a laughing matter. People don't like the guy because he's a fucking racist prick. That's why. Okay? It's not a joke. So, that being said, it was complicated, but he's not liked because of the things he's done in the past. The Trump thing is honestly, the Trump thing is really a minor of that. Because Donald Trump's more popular than he's ever been. He's polarizing, yes, but he won a popular vote. So, and again, I named you two other guys who also appeared at the event, who also are public Trump supporters, and got a completely different reaction. So it's not about Trump anymore. It's about the fact that Hulk Hogan is a racist prick, and people know who he is, and they don't like the guy he turned out to be. And again, for me, it's a wrestling fan torturing because like I'm a Hogan disciple, and I still watch him today. It's great, but I also know he's a racist prick, and that's that. Speaking of politics and Trump, yesterday they officially certified the election from 2024 presidential election. So that's all taken care of. There was no insurrection. There was nothing happened yesterday. Notice how it was all quiet 4 years later. Notice how everything was an up and up. 4 years ago, not so much. I'll leave it at that. Though. So we're now 2 weeks away from Donald Trump being inaugurated as president of the United States. 13 days away, in fact, from the inauguration. I have to work that day. I actually would like to see the inauguration. I don't think I'll be able to because I'll be working. But that's that. Finally, last political thing I forgot here. And I didn't have a chance to react to this last week, but 10 days ago, the late Jimmy Carter, president number 39, passed away at the age of 100. Jimmy Carter is complicated to some people because most people look at him as a terrible president, and there's a conversation for that, I guess, depending on where you stand on the policies and how he handled things and whatnot. And that's fine. You could be someone that's bad at their job, but a good person anyway. And that was Jimmy Carter. Jimmy Carter, to me, his legacy really is everything he did after that. This dude was still building homes in his 90s. Like up until 5 years ago, he was still active helping building homes for Habitat for Humanity. I think it was the charity. He was still doing charitable work, humanitarian efforts well into his 90s. Jimmy Carter is an example of who we should be, regardless of how his presidency, his 4-year presidency went in 1977 to 81. And again, that's polarizing, again, political. But Jimmy Carter, the person, to me, was a phenomenal human being. He'll be missed. He's a great example. He made it 100. And, like I said, he's a great guy. And I think we need to look at his post-presidency more and what he did after, running the country as who he really is. And leave it at that. So, anyway, longer solo episode today. But again, I am on, first off, apologize about the rambling, but it is what it is. I've done one of these in a while. So I am on Twitter/X at EJ Christian 7. Guys, please follow me on TikTok also at Earnest Christian. YouTube page, especially too, at Earnest EJ Christian on YouTube. And YouTube, that's the name, but youtube.com/at Earnest Christian is the URL for YouTube. So anyway, we will talk soon. God bless y'all. We got a lot of positive week to come up, so look out for that. And we will talk to you guys tomorrow. Later.
Hey!